Establishing an agency for the purpose of food reserve is essential to enhance food and nutritional security. A strategic grain reserve will stabilize staple foods prices for the benefit of both consumers and farmers. And the National Food Reserve Agency, when established, will facilitate and provide guidelines for the establishment and maintenance of buffer stock that will ensure price stabilization and food security. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the proposed Food Reserve Agency will be responsible for storing food, grains, and other commodities for strategic purposes. The present hardship faced in relation to soaring prices of food commodities can be mitigated with the existence of this agency, which could have ensured price stabilization and ensure availability of food produce with maintenance of the buffer stock. Mr. President, the objectives of this bill will be: 1, implement the overall National Food Reserve Policy to ensure a reliable supply of designated commodities and meet local shortfalls in supply of designated commodities in the country. 2, reduce post-harvest losses by construction of and management of silos, warehouses, and other suitable storage facilities to be installed at such places and ensure the maintenance, availability, and functionality of all plants, equipment, and auxiliary facilities within the country. 3, facilitate and provide guidelines for the establishment and maintenance of the buffer stock by all states of the Federation, amongst others. Mr. President, in conclusion, distinguished colleagues, the bill, when passed into law, will fulfill the nation's aspiration of feeding itself and attaining national food security. The food reserve stocks can compensate for shortfalls in foreign currency, offset supply of stocks or surge in demand, and also facilitate humanitarian response to food emergencies. It will also help us as a nation to cope with the impact of climate change on food production and supply. Mr. President, with the passage of this bill, this hollow chamber will be putting the nation on the path of food security and self-sufficiency. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I submit that, or I urge other colleagues to please ensure that this bill is passed into law so as to be able to attain these few points I've raised. I so submit.
We passed this bill in the 9th Senate, and I don't know what happened. Somewhere, the bill could not be assented by the President. We argued and debated extensively on the need for having food reserve for the country. A country of over 200 million people cannot have self-sufficiency and food security without food reserve. And for that reason, the federal government saw it right and established the agency. We even have the agency in existence. What is lacking is the legal framework for that agency. And I know very well that once you have the enabling legislation, it will certainly boost agricultural production, because all the excess grains produced will be mopped up by the government and be kept in our silos. And during the period of scarcity, or when the price of food items is so high, the government will order for immediate release of the grains, and that will stabilize the price. And not only stabilizing the price, it will even make the farmers to have all year round employment, because they will produce both in the dry season and the wet season.
I sponsored a similar bill in the House of Representatives in order to give legal teeth for the agency to not only back but bite in the discharge of his statutory functions, because the agency is already established by an act by executive fiat. What we need to do is to give it the legal teeth, not only to bark but to bite in the discharge of his functions. Mr. President, distinguished senators, this agency, when established, is not only going to work by way of price stabilization, because the agency will be charged with the responsibility of buying up surplus with a view to storing it during the period of harvest. And when there is scarcity, the agency will now bring it out and sell it to the members of the public by way of subsidized price. So it has a double-edged advantage in the discharge of its functions. One, as a means of price stabilization, and also as a means of buffer, and also as a means of, when there is scarcity in food, to bring out and then flood the market for the purpose of bringing food to the table of Nigerians. So,
a bill for an act to establish National Food Reserve Agency and for other matters connected therewith, 2024, SB 139. Second reading taken.